My name is Daniel Malik Levy. It's 11:34 p.m. here in Columbus, Ohio. Outside my window, the streets are empty. Fresh snow on the ground, about 4 inches. The kind that makes everything look clean, pristine. Well, this is the Midwest in winter. Quiet, insulated. But I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Jakarta, Indonesia. And my Tante Linda, my aunt, she married a Malaysian man in the 1980s and moved to Kedah in the north of Malaysia, near the border with Thailand. When I was younger, we'd visit her during school breaks. I have memories of humid nights, ceiling fans that barely moved the air, and the sound of the jungle pressing in against the windows. In 2024, I went back. Just me. A research trip. I was collecting stories for this project. Folklore from the Nusantara region, the Malay archipelago. Indonesia and Malaysia share so much: language, food, music, and spirits. One night, during a massive thunderstorm that knocked out the power, Tante Linda and I sat on her porch with battery-powered lanterns. The rain was so loud, we had to shout to hear each other. And that's when she told me about the house. Not a ghost story. Not a legend passed down through generations. A specific house. A house that stood at the edge of her village until it was burned down in 1995. A house where something lived that wasn't quite human anymore. She told me about a woman named Cik Mawar, and she told me about a young teacher named Aziz, who made the mistake of trying to help her. This is the story of the Penanggalan, but not the folklore version. This is what happened. This is what people saw. And this is why, to this day, there's a patch of land in Kedah where nothing will grow. The stranger in Kampung Baru. Aziz bin Hassan arrived in Kampung Baru in March of 1995. He was 26 years old, fresh out of teachers' college in Kuala Lumpur. This was his first posting, mandatory rural service for new educators. 2 years in a village school, teaching primary students. Kampung Baru isn't its real name. Tante Linda asked me not to use the actual village name, out of respect. But it's a small kampung in the Yan district of Kedah, about 40 minutes from the coast. Population maybe 300 people. Rice farmers, mostly rubber tappers, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and outsiders are noticed immediately. Aziz was city-born. He'd never lived in a place without streetlights, without 24-hour convenience stores. The isolation hit him hard. He wrote about it in letters to his fiancée back in KL. I managed to get copies of some of those letters from Tante Linda, who knew Aziz's family. Aziz. Letter dated March 15th, 1995. The quiet here is oppressive. At night, there are no car horns, no television sounds from neighboring apartments. Just insects, frogs, the jungle. I feel like I'm at the edge of the world. The students are sweet, but shy. The villagers are polite, but distant. I am a stranger here, and I think I always will be. But Aziz was determined. He threw himself into his work. He organized after-school programs. He repainted the classroom. He bought textbooks with his own money. The villagers began to warm to him. By May, he was being invited to weddings, to Friday prayers at the sarau, to family dinners. And that's when he met Cik Mawar. Cik Mawar lived in a house at the very edge of the village, where the dirt road ended and the jungle began. The house was old, built in the traditional Malay style, raised on stilts, with carved wooden lattice work and a steep zinc roof. It was beautiful, but isolated. A 10-minute walk from the nearest neighbor. No one visited her. Aziz noticed the house during his evening walks. He'd see a light in the window sometimes, a shadow moving inside, but he never saw anyone come or go. One afternoon, in late May, he finally saw her. She was sitting on her porch, sewing. She looked to be in her mid-30s. Graceful, elegant, long black hair tied back in a loose bun. She wore a traditional baju kurung, a long tunic and skirt, in deep blue. And around her neck, she wore a silk scarf. Even in the heat, even though it was nearly 35 degrees Celsius, Aziz greeted her politely. Selamat petang, Cik. Good afternoon. She looked up, smiled. Her face was strikingly beautiful. High cheekbones, full lips, skin that seemed almost luminous in the late afternoon light. But there was something about her eyes. Aziz wrote about it later. He said they looked tired, ancient. Cik Mawar. Selamat petang Chiku. You are the new teacher, yes? The one from Kuala Lumpur? Aziz. Yes. Cik, my name is Aziz. I've been here 2 months now. I didn't know anyone lived in this house. Cik Mawar, laughing softly. I keep to myself. The villagers prefer it that way. Aziz said there was a smell. Faint, but distinct. Like pickles. Like vinegar, left open in the sun. Acrid. Sharp. It clung to the air around her house. He asked if she needed anything. Supplies from town. Medicine. She declined politely. But she thanked him. And she told him to be careful, walking home after dark. The jungle is active at night, she said. Things move that shouldn't. Over the next few weeks, Aziz found himself drawn to that house he'd walk by on his evening routes. Sometimes Cik Mawar would be on the porch. They'd talk. She was educated, well-spoken. She'd lived in Penang once, she said. She'd been a dancer, but she'd returned to the village years ago for health reasons. Aziz mentioned her to the other teachers at the school. Their reactions were immediate. Silence, averted eyes. Finally, the headmaster, Encik Rahman, a man in his 60s, pulled Aziz aside. Encik Rahman. Ciku Aziz, you must stay away from that house. Cik Mawar is sakit. She is sick. In a way, you cannot help. Aziz. What do you mean sick? Does she need a doctor? I can drive her to the clinic in Encik Rahman. Not that kind of sick, Chiku. The kind that cannot be cured. Only contained. Please. For your own safety. Do not go to that house again. But Aziz didn't listen. He thought they were being superstitious. Cruel. Even. He thought Cik Mawar was just a lonely woman, being ostracized by a closed-minded village. He had no idea what she really was. The night of the midwife. On June 22nd, 1995, a woman named Puan Zainab went into labor. She was 38 years old. This was her 6th child. High risk. The village Biden, the traditional midwife, was with her. But complications arose. The baby wasn't turning. Puan Zainab was bleeding. Encik Rahman came to Aziz's quarters at 11:30 p.m., pounding on the door. They needed to get Puan Zainab to the hospital in Sungai Petani, a 45-minute drive. Aziz had the only vehicle capable of the trip, his old Honda motorcycle with a sidecar attachment. They made it to the hospital. Puan Zainab and the baby survived. By the time Aziz returned to Kampung Baru, it was nearly 2 a.m. The roads were empty. The village was dark. No street lights. Just the pale glow of the moon filtering through the clouds. And that's when he saw the lights. At first, Aziz thought they were fireflies, little pinpricks of light floating through the palm trees near the edge of the village. But as he got closer, he realized the lights were too bright, too large, and they were moving with purpose. One of the lights drifted across the road in front of him. Aziz stopped the motorcycle, cut the engine. The light hovered about 10 feet off the ground. It pulsed, glowed, red-orange, like an ember, and as Aziz's eyes adjusted, he saw the shape behind the light. It was a head. Aziz's recording. I thought I was hallucinating. From exhaustion. From stress. But I could see it so clearly. A woman's head. Long hair, hanging down. And below the neck, there was no body. Just tubes. Glistening. Wet tubes coiled and hanging like roots. They glowed. From the inside. Like blood lit by fire. It turned. The head turned and looked at me. The face was... It was Cik Mawar. I recognized her. But the eyes were wrong. Empty. Black. And the mouth. The mouth was open. Too wide. Smiling. Aziz didn't wait. He started the motorcycle and drove. He didn't stop until he reached his quarters. He locked the door. He turned on every light. And he sat on his bed, shaking, until sunrise. The next morning, Aziz found something on his porch. A trail of slime. Thick. Translucent. It started at the steps and led to his front door, then stopped, as if something had been resting there. And the smell, that vinegar smell, overpowering. Aziz went to Sheikh Rahman. He told him everything. The lights, the head, the slime. He expected to be mocked, to be told he was imagining things. Instead, Sheikh Rahman just nodded, and he said, "Now you understand." And Cik Rahman explained the truth about Cik Mawar. She had been beautiful once, a dancer in Penang. She'd had many suitors, but she'd been vain, obsessed with her looks, terrified of aging. She'd sought out a bomo, a spiritual practitioner, and requested a ritual. She wanted eternal beauty, eternal youth. The bomo warned her. He told her the price, but she didn't listen. The ritual involved susak, charm needles inserted under the skin, and something darker, a pact with a spirit, a binding. She would stay young. She would stay beautiful. But she would change. And Cik Rahman, at night, her head separates from her body. The organs come with it. She hunts. She feeds on the blood of pregnant women and newborns. She cannot stop. She does not want to. And every morning, she returns to her body and soaks her organs in vinegar to shrink them so they fit back inside. Aziz, why don't you stop her? Call the police. Drive her out? And Sheikh Rahman, because she is not evil by choice. Chiku. She is cursed, and the curse is eternal suffering. She begs for death, but she cannot die. We contain her. We warn people. We pray she does not hunt too often. That is all we can do. But Aziz couldn't accept that. He couldn't accept that a woman, cursed or not, was being allowed to harm others. He decided to do something. He decided to confront her. The vat of vinegar. On June 27th, 1995, during the heat of midday, when Aziz knew Cik Mawar would be dormant, he went to her house. He brought a parang, a machete. He brought a flashlight. He brought a bottle of blessed water from the surau. The door was unlocked. He pushed it open. The smell hit him immediately. Vinegar, one so strong, it burned his eyes, and underneath it, something else. Rot, copper, blood. The front room was immaculate, clean. A low table, cushions, framed photographs on the walls. Cik Mawar in her youth, performing on stage, smiling with friends. A shrine in the corner, with incense and offerings. But the smell was coming from the back. The back room was small, dark. The windows were covered with thick curtains. In the center of the room was a massive clay jar, a tempayan, waist-high, glazed, and ancient. And next to the jar, sitting upright in a wooden chair, was a body. Aziz, recording. It was her, Cik Mawar's body, dressed in the same baju kurung I'd seen her wear. The hands were folded in her lap. The posture was perfect, but there was no head. The neck was open, like a sleeve. The skin was smooth, seamless, and inside, I could see the cavity, empty, dark, like looking down a well. Aziz recording. I looked inside the jar. It was filled with vinegar, pure, clear vinegar, and floating in it, there were pieces, dark, organic pieces. I didn't look too closely. I didn't want to know. Aziz realized he'd made a mistake. He'd stayed too long. The sun was setting. He needed to leave. Now. But as he turned toward the door, he heard it. Aziz recording. It sounded like wet laundry being shaken out, like something heavy and slippery moving through the trees. And then I heard the wind. Except it wasn't wind. It was breathing. Deep, rattling breaths. Aziz recording. She was on the roof. I could hear her. I could hear the organs dragging. The wet sound of them sliding across the metal. And then I heard her voice. Cik Mawar from above. Kenapa kamu di sini? Why are you here? Aziz recording. I ran. I didn't look back. But I heard her. I heard her dropping through the gap in the floorboards. I heard the wet, squelching sound of her squeezing through, forcing herself back into the house. Back to her body. Aziz made it out. Barely. He ran through the jungle in the dark, crashing through undergrowth, until he reached the road. He collapsed. A farmer found him an hour later, delirious and covered in scratches. Aziz told the villagers everything. What he'd seen, what he'd heard, and this time they believed him, because they'd always known. The next morning, at dawn, a group of villagers went to the house. They brought parangs, blessed oil, and torches. They burned it to the ground. The aftermath. They found the body in the chair, still headless, still waiting. They poured gasoline over it and set it alight. The tempeh was smashed. The vinegar poured into the earth. Salt was scattered over the site, but they never found the head. Tante Linda told me that some of the villagers claim they saw it that morning. Flying away, trailing smoke and embers, shrieking as the sun rose. Others say it dissolved into mist. Others say it's still out there, hiding in the jungle. Healing, waiting. Aziz left Kampung Baru 2 weeks later. He requested an immediate transfer. The ministry approved it without question. He finished his service in a school in Ipoh. He never spoke publicly about what happened, but in one of his final letters to his fiancée, he wrote something that stayed with me. Aziz's letter, dated July 10th, 1995. I keep thinking about her face, not the monster, the woman. When I first met her on the porch, she looked so tired, so sad. I think she wanted help. I think she wanted someone to end it. But I ran. I was too afraid. And now she's still out there. Still cursed. Still suffering. I don't know which is worse. Being the monster or being trapped inside it. The site where the house stood is still empty. Tante Linda took me there during my visit. It's just a clearing now, overgrown with weeds. The ground is scorched black in places, even after nearly 30 years. Nothing grows there. No grass. No trees. The villagers say the earth is poisoned, cursed. But sometimes, on humid nights, when the air is thick and still, people say they smell it here. Vinegar. I've been thinking about Cik Mawar, about the choices we make when we're desperate, when we're afraid of losing something. Beauty, youth, time. In the West, we have Botox, facelift, filters on Instagram. We're obsessed with preservation, with looking younger, with denying the inevitable. But in the folklore of Southeast Asia, that vanity has consequences. The Penanggalan isn't just a monster. She's a warning, a cautionary tale about what happens when you refuse to accept your own humanity. I was tucking my daughter into bed tonight. She's 5. She asked me why people get old. I told her it's because we're supposed to. Because every wrinkle, every gray hair is a story. A moment lived. Cik Mawar wanted forever. And she got it. But forever isn't always a gift. Sometimes it's a prison. This is Daniel Malik Levy. And remember, some doors are locked for a reason.